What's it like living as a female expat in Asia? How do female expats feel about older expat gentlemen with much younger girlfriends? And who are the types of expats that you need to avoid to have a happy life as an expat yourself? Well, if those questions or anything about the expatriate experience are of interest to you, it is great to have you with me. My name is Wendy, and for more than 3 decades, I've lived and worked in 5 different countries in Asia. And I still live and work in Asia, now in Thailand. Today, I want to talk about something that I very rarely see discussed on the internet, and that is the idea of expat burnout or expat anxiety. And this covers quite a large area. So I want to talk about the different aspects of things that create burnout for expats and also create anxiety, including an experience of my own. So let's break this down a little bit into smaller chunks so we can take a look. And let's start with the things that can create expat anxiety. And by this, I mean things that are significantly important to expatriates that people who are living in their home country for a long time might never have even thought about. So this includes things like missing family, or FOMO as they call it, the fear of missing out. So let's say there's an anniversary of a family member and everybody's gathered, but for one reason or another, you're not there. Or a new baby is born and everybody's together in the family and you're not there. So these are the types of things that somebody who's living overseas, not just gone on holiday, has to think about, and experiences that might be different to someone who's in their home country all the time. It might also be somebody getting sick and suddenly dying, and as an expat you feel, oh no, I've missed out on spending time with this person. I didn't expect this to happen. Or maybe there's some other crisis. Recently there was a bushfire in Australia, and some friends of mine who had been expats for a long time have now moved back to the home country. They were able to help their elderly parents. But if you're not there for that situation, all of this creates anxiety. So that's the first thing. The idea that you've always got one foot in one camp and one foot in another camp, and you can't be in two places at once. And this creates some anxiety around that. Of course, there are lots of other things as well. There's things like money. So you may have spent a long time making sure that you're going to be financially secure in your new home country in Asia, and then it's more expensive than you thought, or the value of the dollar goes up and down. A lot of people I know are in long-term deposit sort of situations, so they might be living on interest, and with currency fluctuations, that creates some anxiety, of course. The Thai dollar at the moment, sorry, Thai dollar, nothing, the Thai baht at the moment is higher than normal, so you're getting less bang for your buck. So that's something to think about as well. Or a market crashes, or there's problems internationally with politics, whatever that politics is, and that's causing some fluctuation in the markets. Now, if you've put your money in that sort of situation to be stable and to live off that income, all of those fluctuations are going to very dramatically alter the way that you're living. So that creates some anxiety. What else creates anxiety? Well, health. You expect to be healthy and well. Unexpected things happen, whether it's because you've retired and you're starting getting older, or perhaps you have an accident or an unexpected disease occurs. And even though you've got excellent health care in your new country, and even though you've got insurance, this was an unexpected expense and also an unexpected drama. Maybe you don't have people around you to help you, or the family say, come home, and you can't come home, or you don't want to come home, but you're not well. So that can create anxiety. Another thing that creates a fair amount of anxiety is when a couple come to live in Asia, and it's always been the plan, they both love it, but one of them really enjoys it and the other one doesn't. And I've seen that quite a lot, whether it's the husband or the wife, doesn't matter, but quite often, it's fun for a year or two, and then one of the partnerships says, this isn't how I thought it would be. I think I'd like to go home. And of course, the other partner says, well, no, I love it here. This is exactly what we planned. Remember, we talked about this. And that creates some friction within the relationship. I've seen that many times, even to the point where there have been conversations about, well, if you die, then I'll go home. That's a really Wow, that's a really tough conversation to have with someone, right? Because this is something that you've planned together. The other thing we want to talk about is boredom. So it seems all well and good before you come to your new country. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. After you've done all of those things, after you've lived this expat life for a few months or a couple of years, and you think, wow, this is just as boring as my life at home. I don't think I like this anymore. What are you going to do? You're going to move to another place? Maybe. But you've invested a lot of time and effort into moving to that country. Now, if you're working and you're changing jobs, that's fine. But if this is a retirement situation, or you're being a digi-nomad and you've set up some structure, if you've got kids and they're in school and you suddenly think, this is a bit dull. This town is too small. This way of life isn't the way we wanted. We want to leave. And that creates some anxiety as well. On top of that, and related to the issue that I talked about earlier, is if a relationship that you're in breaks down and you're suddenly by yourself. So perhaps you did come as a partnership and the other person has found somebody new, or you've found somebody new, or the relationship has broken down to the degree where that person has left you and now you find yourself alone as an expat, and that was never part of the plan. That can be really tough. Maybe the dating scene is starting to get to you. Now, I've done a video before, which I will link at the end of this video, as to dating as a single expat woman. But the truth is that it's very, very difficult for expat women in Asia to find new partnerships. It does happen, but it's very, very rare. More likely for a gentleman to find somebody new, and that's a lot of reasons for that. But if you are somebody who really would like to be in a relationship and you've kind of thought that it would work out okay and then it hasn't, then maybe you start to feel not just anxious, but actually lonely. And you've made a massive investment in this move, and now you're reconsidering your chances, and that creates anxiety as well. Maybe you're just somebody who's prone to anxiety, and I totally get that. I have gone through that myself plenty of times. And so, things worry you. You're a bit of a worrier. You like to have all of your ducks in a row, and all of your ducks aren't in a row. So you're feeling anxiety about that. So all of the things that also affect people in their home countries are somehow magnified when you become an expat, because you don't really have the support system around you that you might have had in your own country. That is to say, old friends who know you or family who are around you. Of course, you've got the expatriate community to take care of you, but they've also got their own worries. And in the current state of the world, dare I comment on it, it's anxiety inducing enough. So these added stresses can become a real 2 Even things like weather. And I know that sounds weird, but I've lived in hot countries quite a lot of the time. 2 of the countries that I lived in did have winters, but I've lived in Singapore, I've lived in Malaysia, and now I live in Thailand. These are permanently hot countries. And as amazing as it is, and I love hot weather, when you're hot all of the time and you never get respite from it, it actually can be a little bit grating at some point. And this can, I know it sounds weird, but this can actually affect the way that you're living. You love it for 11 months of the year, and then all you would like is just a break, a change. And of course you can travel, you can go overseas, but perpetual summer, it is fantastic, and I choose it over the alternative. But there's no question that it can be a little bit much sometimes, because you're not outside as much as you want, or maybe there's mosquitoes, dengue, and things like that you've got to watch out for. So all of these things can create anxiety around being an expat. Even if you are in a country that has winter, maybe the Christmas isn't the same as you wanted at home. So I've talked for a while about anxiety and the things that induce anxiety. So what is expat burnout? Expat burnout is a real thing. It's something that happens when this anxiety gets to the point where you can't take it anymore and you start to feel a bit dead inside and you need to go. And I've talked in another video about when it's time to go, then it's time to go. So I mentioned in the intro about the type of expats you need to avoid. And the type of expats that you need to avoid are the ones who really hate where they live. They hate being expat, but for whatever reason, they either can't make the move or won't make the move, and they become very embittered. And you don't want to be one of those ones. If you find yourself in a place of burnout, if the anxiety and the things around that are getting too much for you. You've taken a break, but it hasn't been enough. You're dreading going back to your adopted country, and you're teetering on the edge of really not coping. Then you're experiencing burnout. And burnout is bad, because what you really need to do then, if you have expat burnout, is you need to make a significant change. And it's going to be really difficult, because you've financially invested, and you've invested time, you've invested effort, you've got friendships in your new place that you're going to go ahead and break. I've actually been through expat burnout myself. Many years ago, after I was living in Malaysia. I was in a partnership. I was married. I had 3 young kids, and we got to the point where it was basically, because Malaysia is very hot, like Thailand. Even though we had a lovely home with a garden, we just found that the temperature wasn't conducive. After a while, for our kids being outside all of the time, everything wasn't working the way we expected. We'd already been in a couple of countries already, so we'd been expat for quite some time, and it was enough. That was enough. We were going home, and that's what we did. Once we had expat burnout, it took a little while to kind of work out that's what that was, and we thought, that's it, we are going home. And we left, and we went back to my ex-husband's home country and my adopted country, which is Australia, and we lived there for a while. Now, funny thing is, of course, within probably a year of being there, we were desperate to get back out again. So that's something that can happen to you too. The point is, change is the one thing that we know that exists on this planet, and nothing has to be permanent. So even if you've made the decision to become an expatriate, you can break that decision, you can change your mind, and you can go home. And if you want to, if you think, I went home and actually it was just the same, or it wasn't as good as I thought, guess what? You can get back on a plane and you can go back over there again. But these are 2 things, expat burnout and expat anxiety, that I wanted to address today, in case you're suffering from it, in case you're worried about it already, or in case you have heard about it before and you think, I wonder what causes all of that. Nothing is perfect, and nobody is perfect. And although I love my lifestyle as an expat, and although I wouldn't change that for the world at this point in my life, I do understand what it's like to think to yourself, I think I've made a terrible mistake. It might be time for me to make a change, and that's okay. So I hope you found that helpful and perhaps a little reassuring, hopefully not alarming. I'm not saying any of this stuff to alarm you, just to tell you that it's out there. If you'd like to leave some comments, if you've had some expat burnout or some other things around anxiety you'd like to talk about, please do leave your comments down below. I've been receiving some wonderful comments lately from people reaching out, people who might be in the town that I'm living in, and people from around the world as well. And it's really great to hear from you. It gives me a lot of encouragement, so I appreciate it when you do comment. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And if there's somebody that you know who's considering an expatriate lifestyle, or perhaps you've got a buddy that you say, come on, we want to do this, let's look at these videos, why not share the video? Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a lovely day.